Welcome to Life's Hidden Curriculum. I'm your host, Quan King. This podcast is for Philadelphia teens and young adults. This is a passion project of mine. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of Life's Hidden Curriculum. I'm Quan King. Today we're going to talk about the school system that you're in, so the Philadelphia School District, and how fucked up it's been. It's very, very fun. And I say that with no sincerity whatsoever. This is a fucked up story. This is almost like a tragedy. It's terrible. So let's hop right in. Actually, you know what? Let's not hop right in. Let me set the stage just a little bit. So what I did was, because I know a little bit of this, I have some working knowledge of the situation, I went and did a bit of AI research using Gemini, and it gave me this really nice elaborate report that I'll share with you in the show notes that you can read for yourself and make your own opinion on. Absolutely. But what it brought to light based off of the news articles and everything that is sourced, it is a real thing that has happened within the last 40 years or so. So it's about money. It's about power. It's about people not giving a shit about the people that are impacted because they just don't, or because they stand to gain a little bit out of it in the process. So let's hop into it. So, like I said, money is involved in this. For the past 40 years, the school district has been in a constant state of financial distress. And it's not just bad management. You can't blame it on one individual. You can't blame it on one superintendent. It's been a fundamental structural problem that's existed well before some of these people got into those positions and has existed since they've left those positions. So here's what happened. School District of Philadelphia is the only school district in Pennsylvania that cannot raise its own taxes. It can't raise its own money. Everybody else can figure out how to do it, whether it's raising property taxes, whether it's doing other things. The city of Philadelphia says, we're not doing that here. So every other district in the state can just raise local property taxes to get more money for their schools. Philly cannot do that. That's part of their laws. Take it up with the mayor if you want to. Don't tell I said that though. We here in Philly got to rely on the city and the state legislator for 99% of the budget for the school district. Now, peep this. Now, let's say your parents, the state and the city, give you allowance every week. And for, the longest time, amount of money that you got from one of them, right? Let's say your dad, deadbeat ass dad, right? Let's say he could give you less and less. And you're like, yo, what the fuck is going on, bro? Like, what are we doing here? So back in 1975, the state was covering 55% of the cost for schools across Pennsylvania. And by 2001, they said, fuck that. They went down to 36%. Now, again, dad was giving you 55 cents for every dollar. Now he give you 36 cents for every dollar. Bruh, what are we doing here? So the policy shift systematically benefited the wealthier districts. So the other people, the other kids that are going to Plymouth White Marsh, that are going to schools in Ambler, where they got high property values for their homes and that kind of stuff. And so when you're paying taxes on that stuff, that money that you're paying a lot for goes into your schools, goes into your roads, make sure your trash get picked up. You guys have seen this. If you haven't been outside of Philadelphia, you haven't been in Adelco, you haven't been in Amonco, you haven't looked around and seen like Lower Marion, and you drive a little bit out there past City Line, you make that right on Lancaster, and all of a sudden things look different. Like the sidewalk look a little bit better and the asphalt looks a little bit darker, right? Yeah. Anyway, I digress. So by 2000, Philadelphia was spending just over half of what wealthier suburban districts like Radnor and Jenkintown were spending per student. The financial crisis reached a breaking point in 2001 because guess what happened? There was a $216 million deficit on the budget. They couldn't even make payroll to pay the teachers and the staff. Damn. This created the perfect storm for major change. And in 2002, the city said, yo, we need help. And the state took it over and they created this nut-ass School Reform Commission, the SRC. And I don't care if people don't like what I'm talking about because it's impacted you negatively, and I think that's bullshit. So if they don't like it, they can take it up with y'all. Don't take it up with me. I'm just the messenger. So they thought this was a way to fix the chronic low test scores and the inequitable financing. But the promised new funding was just a one-time deal. And they also knew it wasn't going to fix the problem. They knew from the beginning. So after the state took over, the SRC, introduced this new idea, the diverse provider model. Basically, it meant that they were going to outsource the management of 45 schools to private organizations. Now, this idea was that market competition would improve schools. This also fueled the growth of charter schools, which had been authorized a few years earlier. So you take an idea, you say, something's wrong. Let's insert capitalism. And then let's also bring in third parties and private organizations to take over things. Now, look, full disclosure and absolute disclaimer, I'm not sitting here trashing charter schools. I'm not. I know people that work at charter schools. I know great people that work at charter schools. But what I am saying is when third parties come in and take over, that's not always a great thing. And there's going to be some challenges and some issues that happen as a result. So think of it like this. Mom and dad split up. Now you got a stepdad. That's a third party for all intents and purposes. Stepdad, stepmom, right? It's different. There might be some good things. There might be some bad things. But the reality is there's a difference here. It's not what you are used to. It's not what you expected. So those changes are going to have consequences, period. That's all it is. So charter schools popped in. And guess what? They popped off. By 2016, Philadelphia had one of the highest percentages of students in charter schools in the country. But here's the crazy part. So you had this charter school paradox. While they were created to give families a choice for their failing schools, their funding mechanism directly drained money from the public school system. So the district was required to send a per pupil payment to each charter school, which had a lot of people saying, well, wait a second. If you're just taking money away from the school district, how is that benefiting the school district? That doesn't seem like, if anything, like the school district didn't have enough money to begin with. And now on top of that, you're taking away even more money for them. How is this supposed to make anything better? Well, it didn't. And as a result, a bunch of schools ended up closing. So the two systems aren't separate. They're stuck in this zero-sum game for resources. Charter schools need funding and public schools need funding. So it's weird. Like you just introduced another player into this, but then they still need help too. Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? So the debate over school choice is a perfect example of a hidden curriculum at work. One side sees a solution in free market competition while the other believes in equitable investment in the public system, right? Let's not open this up to everybody to compete to make this thing better. How about you just give them the shit that they fucking need? Stop being weird. And in the middle, you all. So let's bring this back to you because all of this has real world consequences and it's impacted Philly youth for the longest. So let's get into some quick facts. In 2023, only 34% of students were proficient in ELA, English Language Arts, and only 20% were proficient in math. Just gonna let that sit there for a second. 34 were proficient enough in English, and only 20% were proficient enough in math. The 4-year high school graduation rate in 2008 was just over 58%. Just over 58%. Maybe the most powerful indicator of the school system struggles is chronic absenteeism, which surged by 93% in the 2021-2022 school year, if you all remember the pandemic. Now, here's what I'll also say, because I know this firsthand. I've talked to a lot of young people about school. They don't like school here in Philly. You know why? Because they feel as though that some of the people that are there don't care. They're just collecting a check. Some of the people there are kind of transient. And what I mean by that is that they're there to kind of earn their stripes so that they can go get a nice, better job out in the burbs somewhere. Because if you go out to one of these schools out in the burbs and you said you was a teacher in Philly for like 3 or 4 years, they're gonna give you some street cred, right? Because that's tough. Like, oh yeah, you can handle this. You can handle these kids out here. It's annoying. But what the reality is that in the meantime, y'all suffer. Y'all get dicked over. Y'all get fucked around. That's not cool. So it's not just about skipping school either, because y'all feel like y'all go to school and you're disrespected. You feel like the teachers don't listen to you. You feel like the work that you're getting doesn't make you any smarter. Sometimes you feel as though the books that you're getting are out of date and they don't make any sense if you even get books at all. You got no air conditioning in the summertime. You got no heat in the wintertime. You got no means to get to school sometimes because the bus isn't going to come to get you. So you got to take SEPTA. And now they're trying to cut out some of the SEPTA buses that you guys are taking. There is a ridiculous school bus driver shortage. And I'll be damned if that doesn't relate to the conversation we had earlier when we talked about credentialing, because again, a CDL is a commercial driver's license, which is a licensure, aka certification, that you got to get in order to be able to operate a school bus. And so again, if there are not enough people that are going and getting CDLs, then naturally you're going to not have enough people to be able to drive school buses. You got it. You heard it. See, I was waiting for you to say it because I knew you were going to say it. And so it's just a perpetual cycle of just, damn, I don't want to go to school. And even if I want to go to school, I can't go to school because it's damn near impossible. It's so bad that I heard that the school district is actually paying parents to take their kids to school. You know what's also happened as a result, though, too? Heard about this on the news. Some parents have lost their jobs. They have. No bullshit. Parents have lost jobs because they've been late to work too many times because they've had to drop off their kids. It's fucked up. It's real fucked up. You see how this is all laying on top of each other? You see it now? Yeah, fuckery. So, here's what has changed though. So, February of 2023, the Commonwealth Court. So you have your Supreme Court. That's like at the federal level. That's like for the entire country. At the state level, our little state Supreme Court, our Commonwealth Court, said, you know what? We understand that some parents and some teachers and a teachers union got together, some school districts got together, and they sued the state over this decision to go with this SRC shit, School Reform Commission, and to reduce the funding that they did and to change all this kind of stuff. And we're sitting here looking at it. We're looking at all the information. We're looking at the data. We're looking at the facts, and we're saying, we think that y'all did do some fuck shit. And we're going to say this shit was unconstitutional. So, yes, Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth Court, Pennsylvania, said, yes, the public school funding system is unconstitutional. You can't do shit like this to the young people. It found that the system discriminates against students based on income level and property value of their district, and that students in the low wealth districts were deprived of the same opportunities as their peers in the wealthier areas. So this ruling changed the entire conversation. It wasn't just about politics anymore. It wasn't just about if you in the city or if you outside of there. If the city's providing funding, they got to provide funding to everybody equally across the board. We're not doing this property tax value bullshit no more because you knew that shit was shiesty when you did it and you did the shit anyway. Not cool, not okay. Now, are people going to jail? Probably not, which is corny, right? Because if I did some shiesty shit, you know I'm going to jail. But we ain't going to talk about it. So, but what they are going to try to do is try to make the situation right. Now, if you know anything about how government works, local or federal, shit takes forever to happen. So even though the Commonwealth Court said, you know what, this was wrong, it's going to take a long time for them to fix it. And the ruling is that they're supposed to give this massive amount of funding back into the school system to support Philadelphia and all these other counties that they disenfranchise, basically. At some point in the future, you're going to get that. Probably not while you're in school. Let's say if you're a freshman, you're probably not going to see it before you graduate high school. But maybe by the time you have kids, the situation will improve. And so I say all this to say, because I've had conversations with adults that are in Philly that have said, our schools were never this bad. I don't know what's happened. And so this is what's happened. Now you know. So I hope that helps shed some light on the plight of our teens and young adults in Philly. For generations, young people have had this nutty ass agenda that was working to their disadvantage. You've been trying to navigate a system that was set up for you to fail. And I'm not going to sit up and say that people out in Harrisburg were like, fuck these Philly teens and we want to see them suffer. No, they probably had their reasons for what they did, right? But at the end of the day, those decisions negatively impacted you. Whether or not it made sense and made the bottom line make sense on their end, at the end of the day, you were harmed by these decisions. That's not okay. Doesn't mean that you can't fix things for yourselves, but it's important that you realize that there's only so much that you're going to be able to work with. So at least if you know that now, when people say, well, you just got to go to school, you can say, it's not that simple, my friend. Not that simple at all. It's not just going to school. Because if I was out in the county somewhere, then yes. Just going to school might be good enough. But here in the city, I got to do more than just go to school. I got to go to school and probably get a tutor, and probably got to stay after, and probably got to do some research on my own just to be able to be at the same level of my peers in different parts of the city. Just if I think that I might want to go to college and be ready for college. Yeah. So it's been another episode. Appreciate y'all listening in. Make sure you tell other young people about this. And also hit me up. Let me know how you feel. You can hit me up on Instagram. I'm at lhc.philly. So Life's Hidden Curriculum.Philly. So lhc.philly. If you want to email me, no, you don't. You don't. I'm not going to do that. You don't want to email me. But if there are any practitioners listening, any program directors or anything like that, people that create programming for young people, if you guys want to hit me up via email, qkfamilyfoundation@gmail.com. So the letters Q, K, and then familyfoundation@gmail.com. This has been another episode of Life's Hidden Curriculum. This was about the school district of Philadelphia and how it's not your fault that your school system is trash, but what you need to be aware of in the event that you're trying to have plans after it. Thanks for listening to another episode of Life's Hidden Curriculum. If you want to support this podcast, please go to GoFundMe.com, type in Life's Hidden Curriculum, and you'll see it pop up. We got the cool orange and like aqua color logo there. No donation is too small. I greatly appreciate it. All the money goes towards producing these 8 high-quality video podcast episodes featuring teens and young adults. None of this money comes to me, so whatever you want to give, I greatly appreciate and look forward to more dope content.